self-care for this system of the body, yoga. Tomorrow we'll be doing some body work therapies with Nasya, like local steam saunas and then full body steam sauna. On Sunday afternoon, we'll be doing a chest rub with a special oil called Mahanarayana oil, and how to do like a warm chest compress to relieve chest congestion. So all kinds of fun goodies throughout the weekend. And tonight will just be more of a theoretical overview of the system. And we'll do this once a month. On Fridays, we'll give sort of like a intro talk to what's going to happen that weekend into that system. And it should be a fun standalone community talk. This will just be, it's some of the chants and whatnot. So yeah. But first, let's start with a chant. Let's do a chant to Sarasvati. It's on the second page. And we can do it call and response. Ya kundendu Tusharara Davala Yashupravastravrita Yashupra Vastravrita Yavina Varadanda Manditakara Yasveda Padmasana Ya Brahma Achyuta Shankara Prapratirvihi Devai Sada Vandita Samam Patu Sarasvati Bhagavati Nishesha Jadyapaha. And this is to Saraswati. She's the aspect of the feminine divine that oversees learning, and so she's often invoked at the beginning of a class time or a learning journey. And it just translates to she who's delicate, white complexioned like a garland of dewdrops on the moon, who wears a shining garment, whose hands are adorned with the finest veena and plain stick. Veena is an Indian classical instrument that's played with a bow. Who's seated on a white lotus, Padmasana means lotus position, or seated on a lotus, who's always worshipped by the gods, beginning with Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. May she, Sarasvati, the blessed goddess who removes ignorance completely, protect me. May she protect our learning together this evening and guide it. So you want to do it one more time? It's always a little funny doing it the first time. And this time you can just kind of, even if you want to close your eyes and just relax into the funny sounds that our mouths don't make necessarily throughout the day. Yakundendu Tusharahara Davala Yashupra Vastravrita Yavina Varadanda Manditakara Yasveda Padmasana Ya Brahma Achyuta Shankara Prapratirbi Devai Sada Vandita Samam Patu Sarasvati Bhagavati Nishesha Jadyapaha So even if you don't know what the words mean, the Sanskrit language in and of itself has, the vibrations have an elevating effect for the mind, and they just help elevate the attention. And so even without knowing what it means, it has some nice benefit to chant in Sanskrit. In addition to Praana, vaha, srota on tonight's topic, we'll just cover in a nutshell what the 20 gunas are in Ayurveda, and also the 5 vayus, or the 5 directions that space and air move in our vesture, physical body. And both of these topics could be their own class in and of themselves, but we'll just cover them briefly. And then if we have time at the end, I have an exercise that might be fun to do with the 20 gunas. But either way, I'll just go ahead and pass this out, and we'll do our best to save some time at the end. So if you do want to, a few pages later, at the top, there's one sheet that says the 20 gunas. And just like in yoga, there's Yoga Sutras, and there's also Ayurveda Sutras, and they're basically in the time where most people didn't know how to read and write. This knowledge of yoga and Ayurveda and the Vedic sciences were passed down orally and in the form of sutras, and they're just a very concise bullet of information that then has to be unpacked by a teacher. And So the 20 gunas, guna just means quality, and the 20 gunas are, there are 20 different qualities as seen in Ayurveda. And on the worksheet, it just says, so Charaka was one of the ancient Ayurvedic physicians, and he was the first one to have recorded sutras that he wrote. And he said that all organic and inorganic substances, as well as all thoughts and actions, have definite attributes. According to Ayurveda, there are 20 basic attributes or gunas. Charaka categorized these attributes into 10 opposite pairs. These opposite pairs function together. It is possible to understand the universe in its entirety in terms of the interactions of the opposing basic attributes. I'm sorry, that was Dr. Ladd that said that about Charaka and the 20 attributes. And the 20 attributes or gunas, which can be applied to any situation, whether it's our emotional state or our physical state or the climate of the state we're in, what the mood of the day is. You could think of that in terms of these qualities. And so the qualities are listed in opposites. So the first two are heavy and light, oily, dry, soft, hard, clear, cloudy, slow, and then fast or sharp, smooth, slimy, and then rough would be the opposite, subtle, with the opposite being gross, or like not gross like yucky, but gross like dense. Cold, hot, liquid. I'm sorry, I used the word dense, but gross as in heavy. Liquid and dense. Density is a separate quality. Stable and mobile. And so those are the 20 gunas. And in this worksheet, which hopefully we'll have time to do later, just walks you through thinking of a life situation that might feel out of balance, or a relationship, like, or some situation that you have recurring that seems out of balance. And then a fun thing to do is just like circle what are the qualities that match this situation. Like, it just feels heavy and like intense. Maybe sharp would be the best fitting quality. Sharp is like, the word for sharp is tikshna in Sanskrit. And these 20 qualities, by the way, if you want to learn like 20 Sanskrit words that are valuable to learn, it would be these 20 words. You hear quite a bit all over the place because they're important, like adjectives. But tikshna is like when somebody's got a very intense eye gaze, where it's like, whoa, like that's a tikshna quality. And like Molly does not have the tikshna quality. Maybe we could all, Audra kind of has a little bit of tikshna. Would you say you have tikshna, Audra? Sometimes. It's not as intense as, yeah, Pierre's got the tikshna quality. So you're getting the idea, like you can, like some people, Molly's, let's see. Molly's got the stira quality, which is like stable. Yeah, definitely. And mridu is like a softness, like, and those are kapha qualities, which we're not going to go into the body types. Are you familiar with? Okay, good. And we talked about that last week. Okay. And are you familiar with? So you may need to come to a basics class just to get an overview of the different body types in Ayurveda. Yeah, yeah. Well, that'll be vata is space and air, and as you like get past the age of like 50 or so, like as women get past menopausal age, vata becomes there's a vata age, so that can come into play also. But in a nutshell, we all have a native constitution that we're born with. Um, that can then, you know, be overshadowed by environmental conditions and age and whatnot. But yeah, that gets covered in a lot more detail in another class. Um, and um, so, anyway, these are the 20 gunas. And as are you a yoga teacher? No. Kindergarten teacher. Wow. So, yeah, yeah. Teaching. That'd be cute. Go ahead. Yeah, it's a nice. Mm. So, what quality, if you look at the 20 gunas, is there a quality that you've the tapping brings for you? Would it be stability or clearness, clarity? Yeah. And the Sanskrit word for stable is stira, and you hear that word a lot. Stira. If you want to see the Sanskrit words, they're on the 20 gunas. Um, as teachers, like maybe you get to the room, and there's just a certain mood, like something either feels, really good, or something feels like not quite balanced, or um, so so it can be nice to just think, well, what is that I feel like? Maybe I feel heavy, or um, and so then the next question is, well, how can I call in the opposite quality? And none of these like some of these qualities we might in the West connotate as negative, but they're actually all very important qualities, and like necessary for nature to function. And you could put a very a very positive spin on any of them, like when we want to sleep at night, heaviness is a good thing. Or heavy, the word for in Sanskrit for heavy is guru, and guru means heavy, which is odd, like because often we'll think of heavy as a bad thing, like, oh, I feel heavy, like, but in this sense, guru is like, if you think of like the moon, it has a magnetic pull, and even the ocean tide adjusts itself to the moon. Um, so that is also the quality is guru, or heavy. And so like when I'm so solid in myself, um, like it's not that I'm like changing hither and thither to like accommodate the world, like the world actually like starts to accommodate me, like because I'm solid in what I, in myself. And so, like, as a yoga teacher, we want to set the tone in the class and create a space or hold a space where people feel safe. And the guru quality is definitely a good thing. Or as a kindergarten teacher. And yeah, yeah, like the grounding presence. That's a nice way to put that quality. Yeah. And so, or maybe at like, at the office job, like some new deadline got set and like everybody's kind of like, "Ah," and like here's Veronica just like, okay, one thing at a time. Like even just one person in a room who's just centered can change the whole vibration of the whole room. Like one person that's just not gonna be frazzled by whatever that situation is. um, yeah, what do you do, Tom? Oh, okay. So office work. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So you probably get a little bit of that too. Oh, that's nice. Wow. Uh-huh. 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 Even on the phone, you can feel that and either be affected by it or be the one that affects others. Yeah. Um, so you kind of get the point about the 20 qualities, right? So hopefully we'll come back to this at the end and we can move on to the next topic, which we'll actually cover in a lot more detail next week in our yoga therapeutics, but just at least wanted to introduce it tonight. The 5 vayus. Do you remember what they are, Molly? Okay, we'll quiz you again tomorrow. How about you, Melissa? You remember what the downward current is? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Uh. The Viana is it's like circulation, so distribution through the whole system. Yeah. Udana. Mm-hmm. Ut means up. Mm-hmm. And which one is that? Is the and Ayurveda is seen as the exhale, and it means like up and out. Yeah, yeah. So like sneezing, achoo, or like burping or uh, hiccups. It's like this up, up, up and out. Yeah, yeah. So the first one, do you remember, Audra? Prana. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Viana. And Viana, uh-huh. Vijnana is one of the koshas. Samana. Yeah. Okay. So we'll back up. Prana is like our vital life force. And these are 5 ways that prana moves through our system. And when things are in balance, prana is flowing. Like different functions of the body require different vayus. And what the 5 vayu means wind. And the first one is called prana, which is a little confusing. But prana vayu is the inward filling vayu. So when we inhale, you can just take a deep inhale. And that's prana vayu, related to the inhale, taking in. And the seat of, let me pull this up. The seat of prana vayu is in the center of the brain. And I just took this from this picture of a table in Dr. Ladd's book. It's related to the ether element, and its job is to fill space. And then the second one is udana. And anytime you hear ut, it means up. So Uddiyana Uddiyana Bandha is the upward flying. It's this the cross fibers here. When you draw your diaphragm up, like at the end of the exhale, you can suction your diaphragm up. Maybe suction isn't the best word, but it's just that's those cross fibers are engaged. And it's got the same root in it, Uddiyana Bandha. So Udana means upward. And that's related to the air element, and its primary site is the diaphragm and throat. Udvahana means moving upwards. And yeah, its direction is upward. So like prana is easiest to detect just with the inhale by taking in. Udana, when you take a deep exhale, like the exhale is up and out. What are some other things? I mentioned a couple: sneezing, burping, any hiccups. Anything else that you can think of that's like, maybe even like the flow is stuck in the up and out when it shouldn't be? Like it's not as normal sometimes. So like these terms are used in ailments of the body. Almost all ailments of the body have a misdirected prana in some way or another. Yeah, it's like it's going up instead of going down. Yeah, yeah. It's like Udana Vayu is overactive, and what's underactive or what's not functioning. Apana Vayu isn't functioning quite right. Same with what else is a situation where something's coming up when it should be going. Yeah, yeah, exactly. What's that? Yeah. Yeah. Um, and then Samana Vayu is related to the fire element, and so the seat of that is in our small intestines, navel. Viveka. Anybody heard of Vivekananda? Vivekananda was a famous saint / philosopher that he brought he came to the West, like, I don't know, before Yogananda did, bringing Eastern knowledge to the West. So he's a famous sage, / philosopher. And viveka it means discrimination. Yeah. And so that's kind of what the small intestines do. They're like separating the pure from the impure before, sending it into the large intestines. And so this value is really important for our digestion to function properly. And of course, it could be overactive, like if our digestion is like too strong, just like, yeah, like maybe like a teenage boy or something can't keep the pantry stocked, or maybe like an ulcer kind of situation where it's too much fire going on there. And of course, then it could also be not strong enough, not functioning properly. Then apana is related to the earth element, and its seat is in our colon, pelvic cavity. So what are some other things that are related to apana vayu? Excretion, yeah. What goes down and out? Childbirth, yeah, having a child. Menstruation, urination. Um, there's these things you can get. There's some that are called squatty potties, but then there's another brand called Up in a Stool. So, and its function is dharana, which recognize that word, Audra? Uh-huh. Yeah, it's one of the 8 limbs of yoga, dharana. And it just means like holding. And in that case, in the 8 limb of yoga, it's holding our attention in one spot. And in this case, dharana just means like to hold. And so if it's not functioning properly, you might have something like diarrhea where we're not actually holding on to food long enough for it to digest properly. Because the colon it's one of its jobs is like it's where a lot of the absorption happens of like minerals and nutrients from the food. And so the proper length of time so that can happen is important. And of course, you want the baby to be held um, until it's close to a good time for it to let go of. So that's an important holding factor too. And then the last one, Vyana Vayu, was related to the water element, and its seat is the heart, and then of course the whole body because it's circulation. So if somebody's got like cold hands and feet all the time, that's something, Vyana Vayu, the circulation isn't quite happening optimally. And of course, a lot of other things related to heart and circulation that could be out of balance having to do with Vyana Vayu. And I like the name of the function for this one, Praspandanam. It just means like pulsation or throbbing. So if you think of the heartbeat, like it's just boom, boom, boom. But like the whole world is kind of pulsating too. So it's kind of a fun word. Also, like in yoga, when we talk about muscular energy in, expressive energy out, like which one would be more related to muscular energy in? You could say that. Um, you could say that. I could see it does require like drawing in, but there's one that uh, that would be more expressing out in a downward way, but Vyana Vayu would be more like expressing out in all directions. Um, Samana Vayu is more like drawing into the core. Does that make sense? Samana is that middle one. The so when you see a picture, oh, we can turn up the lights. When you see a picture of it, Samana is like arrows in towards the midline. Vyana is like arrows out away from the midline. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. 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 So, yeah, the subtypes of, yeah, it's the way prana moves through the body, um, or the different ways prana moves. Um, and so it's not just pertaining to like pranayama. Um, although pranayama is a really good way to explore each of these and get to know. I mean, the object of pranayama is to balance all of these, because ideally we want all of these balanced, um, and uh, and so there's breathing techniques that explore each one of these in more depth, which we'll get into that in the yoga therapeutics next week, a little more about which breathing techniques explore the different values more so or less so. But even so prana is like our life force, and one of the easiest ways to, well, breath is said to be like the vehicle of prana. But you can also direct prana just with your attention too. Um, if you, and doing pranayama helps to, to do that, to feel the prana as it's moving, and then but they say where our attention goes, their prana flows. um, well, all of them could be related to the muscles, but like if you're learning how to draw energy in towards the core, like engage your muscles, then like, so drawing in towards the core is samana vayu. If you're trying to learn how to like somebody who's more muscular and wanting to learn how to like get more flexible and like express out more, then that would be Vyana, like outward expression. It's like yeah, uh-huh. Yeah. Um, yeah, that'd be great, because that'd be fun to see the pictures. Uh-huh. I should have taken, maybe for next week we'll have our manuals. Uh-huh. Yeah. Right. Right. Like, you mean, because and when we have different survival patterns, we might have different funny patterns with our breath, where some people, when they're scared, they'll, and they won't exhale. And that would be what got a little stuck. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Uh, like it's gotten a little stuck that way. So we want them to take a deep exhale and like down and out. That's a good question. Actually, I'm sorry. So we got stuck on the inhale, so that would be more prana and udana. The thing that gets confusing too is that in yoga language, they talk about the exhale related to apana. And in Ayurveda, they talk about, and Dr. Lad talks about this in his book too. In Ayurveda, they talk about the exhale more related to udana. So, yeah, yeah. So, like just, it feels like grounding, like I'm rooting down when I take a nice deep exhale. Like there's something that just, whew. Like it going down. Yeah. Yeah. So it's
actually a picture in the srotas that we're studying that
uh-huh.
it connects to one of these.
Mm.
And it shows the diaphragm and the direction of the energy
Praana, vaha, srotas. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Well, maybe we should go into, what time is it? Oh yeah, we should definitely go into prana vaha srotas a little bit. At least we got in a nutshell of what the vayus are. And this will be something, all of these topics, the gunas and the vayus, are something that will get sprinkled into like almost every weekend intensive because they pertain to they're a basic foundational piece of knowledge. So we'll come back to these, but at least we got a little intro. So oh, go ahead. Pitta or kapha. So vata, like they all have subtypes. Pitta has 5 subtypes and kapha has 5 subtypes too. But in yoga, like you mostly hear about the 5 subtypes of vata the most. And um, and basically like movement is governed by vata. So these are different ways movement can happen. Movement of prana specifically. Yeah. Good question. It's the same, yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Which in this case, like it's not referring to like this applies to more than just vata body types. It applies to everybody. Yeah. Uh-huh. In those passages, because in those pathways, something's moving and it'll move in different ways. There might be different preferred movements in each of the passage body systems, passageways. So let's go to Praana, vaha, srota. And this is just welcome to take one of these. This is an overview of all of the srotas. So srotas, srotamsi is singular, srotas are plural. I'm sorry, the opposite. Srotamsi is plural, srotas is singular. So when we talk about all of them together, we'll say srotamsi. And when we talk about one of them, we talk about srotas. And so there's the first three are the intake of air, the intake of water, and the intake of food. And then the next 8 are related to the different tissues. So we've got that dhatus, rasa, rakta, mamsa, meda, asti, maja, shukra, and artava. Those are called the 7 dhatus, and they each have their own channel that they move through. So rakta is like the lymphatic system, or the closest thing in Western anatomy would be the lymphatic system, would be rakta, vaha, srotas. And then also it's related to the circulatory system. Rakta is it's like the plasma of the blood, whereas, I'm sorry, rasa is the plasma of the blood. Rakta are the red blood cells. So rakta, vaha, srotas would be another component to the circulatory system. Mamsa, vaha, srotas it's like our muscular system. Meda is subcutaneous fat, so it's like the fat in the body. Asti is our bones, our skeletal system. Maja is our nervous system. And shukra and artava are like related to our reproductive system, the sex tissue. And then on the back, then we can keep going with parisha. Then there's the eliminative, like at the beginning, or the taking in channels for food, air, water. At the end, it's the eliminating channels for food. So we've got our like urinary system, and then like the large intestines for eliminating fecal matter. And then we've got the sweat ducts for eliminating sweat. And then there's a channel called Manovahasrotas, and that's our mental channel, the channel of the mind. And Stanya Vahasrotas, which just women have for lactation. And Dr. Ladd, in his book, he says, even between me and you, there's a srotas. Like, there's a lot, like, srotas just means channel. And so there's a channel, even an unseen channel in between, like in between any two people. And some of the subtles are more gross, and some of them are more subtle, like Manavahasrotas is a little more subtle. And then other ones are more concrete, like you can feel it, it's very tangible.
Other than like when you're nursing, but like how do you
Who do you
identify that as an important function?
that's like a bodily function. Yeah.
Planned Parenthood back in the day,
Hmm.
before all the funds were cut, and my friend Judge Tanya Walton Pratt went through one call, and no money from Planned Parenthood that people give goes to any abortion clinic. None. They still want to cut it. However, you learn at Planned Parenthood that you kill human nipples. While you're pregnant. Yeah, because when that baby latches on, it hurts. It doesn't become infected, and that hurts because you have to keep putting them on and it breaks that scab. But you kill them till they're hard. And you don't learn that going through GYN.
Yeah.
None. Never heard
Oh, yeah.
heard that from a nurse.
Yeah.
If you just realize- I know. It's like, why did you do that, Marie?
Yeah. So vaha, and we saw that word. We saw that word. Udvahana. And it's also in one of the chants we do a lot here. Singhavahanye. The chant to Lakshmi, Mahalakshmi. Vahana, it just means moving, or Vahanye is a vehicle. So in that chant, Singha means lion. Her vehicle is the lion. She's riding a lion. So in this in this case, it's the movement. So the purpose of prana vaha srotas is the movement of prana, or our life force. And the purpose of ambu vaha srotas is the movement of fluid that we take in. Ana means, ambu means water. Ana means food. So the movement of food through the system. Rakta, rasa is our lymph fluid and our white blood cells, plasma. So it's the movement of that through the system. And like in Western science, they don't really separate that. Rasa and rakta. Like we talk about the lymphatic system, but we don't really separate plasma and white blood cells from red blood cells. Like there's their own system, like their own movement system. Do you?
Yeah,
so they do.
Uh-huh. It's so interesting to see the differences that people have in like their plasma and their buffy coat and the red blood cells. And that's how they used to, I found out that's how they used to diagnose people with anemia. They would just draw their blood and then put it in a centrifuge, and then based off of like, oh, you only have that much, you should have that much. Like, yeah, you're anemic. Like,
Wow.
A platelet count, and there's 3 white blood cells. And they do that too. Because I have lupus. That's all.
So you have to have tests done quite a bit to.
My white blood cells always get out of control. Killer cells. And they can't identify an antigen, so they attack healthy cells and turn them into cells. So I take a antimalarial and a chemo drug. The white blood cells come out, but no, they do that. They do it for me.
Yeah, in certain circumstances. Yeah, but like in general, just going to your doctor.
Right, there's not a doctor that practice except ways.
We just do it to get information.
That's cool that you do that at your job. Wow. So anyway, that's a little overview of the srotas. And tonight, um, mm-hmm. Oh, it doesn't like the Parisha is the fecal. It's the elimination of. So it's those three are eliminating. So fecal matter, urine, and sweat. Didn't like the image I picked for the respiratory system, so I'm gonna. So can I pull up? I had a okay, good. So this is the way the respiratory system is mapped out in like Western science, and in Ayurveda, the way so each srota has it has a root, it has a passageway, and then it has a mouth or entryway. So the entryway or mouth is called mukha. Like in yoga, there's a pose called gomukhasana. Gomukhasana, and it means cow face. And then the passageway is called marga. And then the root. Anybody remember the word for root?
Mula.
Mula. Nice. Like Muladhara is the root chakra. So mula means root. And so they talk about each of those three things. And in the Praana vaha srotas, the any guess on the entryway or the mouth? Or it's not actually the mouth, but go ahead. You pointed to something. Our nose, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then the passageway, marga. It's actually a combination of the like the as it enters the nose, down the trachea, and then the whole bronchial tree. And then the root, this is a hard one. It's not necessarily intuitive. She's reading it. She's practical. Actually, the left chamber of the heart is that's where the oxygenated blood enters the heart. So that's the root of the pranavaha srotas. But the alveoli are part of, I believe they're part of the marga, the passageway. So the so the heart receives oxygen through the left chamber, and then the right chamber is what like then disperses it into the circulatory system. What else? So yeah, into like circulatory system. So the lungs are really quite an amazing, like magical thing. They don't just breathe for themselves. They're sending oxygen to the whole body, and like you know how when you go to the doctor and they put one of those things on your finger to test the oxygenation of your, it's pretty fascinating. I have one of those at home, and and for a little while I was having fun, like with just like when I did pranayama, watching, when I first get up in the morning, testing it, and then literally within, often when we first get up in the morning, like we don't necessarily do deep breathing through the night, and so our body doesn't have as much oxygen. And then like even just within like a minute of doing pranayama, it changes it completely, like how fast you can breathe in, and that disperses into the whole system, where what's registered on the finger is very different. So it's a pretty amazing system. One question, yeah. Oh, wow, what's going on? Yeah. And one interesting thing I thought of when I first thought of this channel is, like in yoga, they always talk about, and in meditation, they talk about breathing through your nose rather than your mouth. Any thoughts on why? Mm-hmm. Mm.
Once that it's harder, and your heart has to work harder when you breathe through your mouth,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. I don't know why.
Definitely, like mouth breathing, it gets the heartbeat up faster. Like when we're straining to breathe, like often people will like start to breathe out of their mouth. Like, any other thoughts or things you've heard? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Left chamber of the
heart.
Uh-huh.
So that then then the oxygen is clean and only it's dispersed to the blood, right?
Uh-huh.
Is that right?
Yeah, and that's like definitely when and not just cleaner, but the air gets moistened in our sinuses. Like we've got mucous membranes, and it's moistened. Whereas mouth breathing is drying. Yeah, yeah. And then also, like when you breathe through your mouth, it just goes right down. But when we breathe through our nose, it actually goes like through our brain, part of our brain. So, yeah. You're basically doing Nessia with Vaseline. Nessia. Uh-huh. 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 Well, you might want to come back for the Nessia class tomorrow, like, because Nessia might be something really nice for you. I think it's the first afternoon class. Yeah, yeah. I think it's at 1:30. We can look at the end though. So yeah, that is in a nutshell the Praana vaha srotas. And of course, the muscles of respiration are an important factor of the system too. Like Audra mentioned, the diaphragm muscle. And then we've got, those connect to the ribs. What other muscles do you think might be muscles of respiration? The intercostals. So like you've got external and internal. I forget which do which. Anybody here remember? One assists inhalation, and I think okay, it's the opposite of what you think. So external intercostals, external. It would be inhale, and internal would be exhale. I think it's the opposite. So yeah. So one contracts the ribs when you exhale, the external, and then one expands the ribs. They're like cross-hatched in these spaces in between your ribs. So if you comb through we'll do this on Sunday, massaging through the ribs like this, like a comb, and that massages your intercostal muscles, which yeah, you can get in there and you can massage your diaphragm, and all of these muscles can get tight, which inhibit our ability to breathe properly. And like having something like pneumonia where you're coughing a lot, like it can actually create a stuckness where the muscles get tight. And so yeah, that'll be Sunday's topic. But that also takes us to the last thing about this channel is each srota can have different imbalances. And so what would be some environmental factors that could be imbalancing, like take this out of balance, this system? Pollution, yeah, mold, any kind of allergen, dry air, or over damp air, stagnant damp air. What's that? Stagnant damp air as well as over dry air. Yeah. Perfume. And so like then we can have and this could pertain to any srotas, what would like if we look at vata, pitta, and kapha imbalances, what would a pitta is probably the easiest one. Pitta, what would a pitta imbalance look like? Inflammation and too much heat, or what does that show up in other than inflammation? It also starts with infection, yeah. So those would be a couple of pitta things that could happen in any of the srotas out of pitta imbalances. What about vata imbalance? Dry, yeah, dried out, cracked, like a chapped nose, not enough moisture in your sinus passages, like dry throat. Of course, when you talk about like laryngitis or something, itis means infection, so or inflammation of. So that's a pitta condition as well as vata. And then and vata in general is it's like any kind of degenerative condition or deficient condition would be more related to vata. Whereas kapha would be yeah, too much. Mucus, bronchitis would, yeah. Pneumonia, I believe, would be more kapha, like all the mucus buildup. And like a lot of cold conditions are very kapha. You've got a lot of mucus coming out. But you can also have like a dry, unproductive cough would be more vata. And then if you've got like yellow mucus, there's some infection, and that's more pitta. And so kapha would be excess or stagnation, just not moving. So that could apply to any of the channels, but yeah, we just looked at some of the pathologies with prana, vaha, srotas. Yeah, like in general, when there's like degeneration, it's more related to vata. So like osteoporosis, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So then like what are some, we talked about some nice self-care things, and we'll be exploring this all weekend, like self-care things with Ayurveda. But what would be some good self-care things to take care of this channel? The pranavaha srotas. Breathing exercises. Absolutely. What else? Neti pot. And what would be your guess? Like, when would you do neti pot versus nasya?
Neti, well, I may be using it incorrectly when I do it. Neti is when I want to clear out like blockages. What I do. Like, I feel like there's like gross. But I feel like I have a mucus plug or something, and the neti pot.
Yeah. The sailing. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Nasya. Nasya is this. Oh, well, there's lots of different kinds of nasya. Even what you did with the Vaseline could be called nasya. I don't know that traditionally they would use Vaseline, but this one is a type of nasya that has rose, eucalyptus, and sandalwood in it. Nasya. And it's basically just a nasal application, something that you put into the sinuses. And so oil is, so when something is dry, there are actually opposites in the gunas. Oily and dry are opposites. So like when something is dry, like if you think of dry leather, if you put water on it, it'll just dry it out more. But if you put oil on it, it'll moisten it. So similar to like our sinuses, if they're already dry and irritated, and you put salt water in it, that'll just make them more dry and irritated. If it's dry and irritated, it's better to do nasya with the oil application. So if it's inflamed, oil could be better. But if it's past the point where, so like, for example, when you get, nasya is a great thing to prevent allergies, because you breathe in the allergens, and if your mucous membranes are dried out, then the allergens are going to irritate them right away, and your body produces mucus to counteract that. Once you have mucus flowing, then it's better to do neti pot, because you want to get that mucus out of there, and you don't want to put oil in to trap it in further. But to prevent that, nasya is better. you don't want to do them together or back to back because the oil will trap the water in. We'll talk about this in more detail tomorrow, but yeah. So Nessie is something you can do every day, and it'll just coat your mucous membranes and rehydrate them and help, like your nose is a filtration system, so it helps it do its job better. And ideally it helps prevent a lot of the things that might, and there are some good kapha Nasia. We have one downstairs that actually helps dry up mucus because kapha body types naturally have more mucus. And so, yeah, they would want to use the other Nasia for kapha body types. Yeah. So that's definitely one good self-care, either neti pot if it's past the point, or Nasia, like to keep your sinuses lubricated. And then what else? What are some other things? Steam, yeah, like, yeah, any kind of steam, whether it's a local steam, breathing in like eucalyptus steam if you're congested, or you can even do a whole body steam. What would be a whole body steam that everybody could do at home? A bath or hot shower. Yeah. 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 So that's like a home Svadena. Svedna is the word for sweat, sweating. Vicks, yeah, eucalyptus or menthol are really nice things to open up the that passageway. I brought some eucalyptus just so we could, even just smelling it opens up everything. Yeah, and that in and of itself. We have downstairs we have this, it's called throat soother. I believe it's got licorice in it and some other slippery elm. So like licorice is a great one to have for like that stickiness in the throat, like sticky, dry, itchiness in the throat. Licorice is a great cold thing for colds to have around. And then any other cold remedies that anybody, or remedies for any of the ailments that lemon honey water. Yeah, honey is soothing to the throat, but it also has like a scraping quality, so it helps like the mucus dislodge. So that's and ginger, tulsi and ginger. Tulsi is good for, it's a natural adaptogen, so it helps our body fight off. We have it in bulk downstairs. You can buy like tea bags, Tulsi tea bags at like Whole Foods or any health food store. Tulsi. It's one of the most revered herbs in Ayurveda. Holy basil. Yeah.
Is it holy basil?
It's the same thing. Turmeric is also a great friend of, for any kind of respiratory. Like if you gargle with turmeric, it can helps take away the inflammation, but it also helps with infection. Some people even put a little turmeric in their neti pot. I've never tried that personally.
Turmeric powder, I would assume. Right?
Yeah, too. If you buy it fresh, you mean? Or actually, if you have it fresh, you could make a tea with it and use it that way. We have, I can show you at dinner time. It looks pretty much. You wouldn't want to put the zest in your nose though. Oh, but you could make a tea with it. Yeah, yeah. You can grate it and make a tea with it and gargle it or yeah. Um, so I think we've gone over a little bit. Any last questions?
For the Tulsi, you said it was a natural
I think it's just said adaptogen, so it helps our body. It helps our body like basically naturalize, like fight off whatever is going on, and it's also like it's a mood mender too, like at the emotional level, an adaptogen, like.
Yeah, my friend would use it a lot. She was the one who told me about it because she said that she was kind of tense because she worked from home.
Mm.
So, okay, time for holy basil tea. So, she said definitely.
Yeah, it's one of those things you could just take holy basil. Like it's good for so many things. If you're not sure, just drink some Tulsi tea. Cumin is also like that, as Dr. Ladd in his cookbook, he says, if you have something going on, just close your eyes and take cumin. Cumin, well, it's good for a lot of things, but one of the reasons they use it so much in Ayurvedic cooking is that it's really good for digestion.
Now, you're talking about
Oh.
I mean, I would get the higher quality. I mean, I will say one thing, I know them Ayurvedic cooking
Uh-huh.
and vegan cooking, so many of the recipes call for cumin. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I use it until I became a vegan, and they're like,
Yeah. Yeah. You could, yeah, typically, you can cook with it is nice. Like in Ayurveda, food is seen as medicine. So that's a great way to take your medicine is to cook with it, especially, I mean, you see in native cultures, they use cumin and beans, like they're married together. It's good. Digestion is one thing. It kindles Agni, which is our digestive fire, and helps with digestion. But then it's got a lot of other benefits too. Yeah. So we've got kitchery downstairs, and it has cumin in it. Yay! And we can keep talking while we're eating dinner too, if you want, if you have questions or whatnot.
the whole time.